Next on Unsolved Mysteries. A wealthy Houston housewife is shot to death in her own home. Her husband is the prime suspect, but he appears to have an airtight alibi. In a tragic murder case, the victim speaks to a friend from beyond the grave to identify her killer. 5 chests filled with gold worth millions are just waiting to be found beneath the murky waters of Lake Michigan. And a small Wisconsin farm is transformed into a shrine for Native Americans after a pure white buffalo calf is born there. Is this buffalo the fulfillment of an ancient prophecy? 5 fascinating stories that you won't want to miss. I'm Dennis Farina, and for the next hour, it's Unsolved Mysteries. Houston, Texas. At 10:06 a.m. on Valentine's Day, a wealthy young housewife named Mary Lou Girai was found shot to death in her home. 2 guns have been used in the murder. Investigators have been unable to find the person who shot Mary Lou Girai. Mary Lou's parents are convinced that her husband Stephen is the killer, but Stephen insists that he is innocent. Their accounts are completely contradictory. At 8:15 that morning, Stephen Girai called Mary Lou's mother. He asked her to go over and help Mary Lou prepare for a lunchtime party.
Go over a little bit early and help Mary Lou get ready for it. Super.
I dialed Mary's number, and she didn't answer the phone. And it got me very concerned because I thought, how strange. She's supposed to be already running around the house doing the last things. Where is she?
Maria immediately drove to her daughter's house.
The front door was not locked.
Mary Lou, ¿dónde estás?
She searched the back of the house, where she finally found Mary Lou laying on the floor. It was 10:06 a.m.
She looked like she had fainted or something, and I started to kiss her in her face and touching her, and she looked like she was dead. I thought I was in a nightmare.
At 10:30 a.m., the paramedics tried to revive Mary Lou. They injected her heart with medication, but she was already dead. This procedure later made it impossible to determine the exact time of death. Mary Lou had been shot 4 times with 2 different guns, a .380 and a .22 caliber. There were no guns found in the house, and there were no signs of a break-in. And yet, in the bedroom, Mary Lou's jewelry box was wide open.
It was jewelry laying in there. Whoever killed Mary Lou didn't come in the house to steal anything.
Mary Lou's husband disagrees.
Well, there was many things taken. The gross value was about $25 to $30, maybe $40,000 worth of jewelry, fur coats, or other valuables.
Maria believed it was all a well-planned murder. Mary Lou and Stephen had been married for 3 years. Stephen was an insurance agent, and Mary Lou worked for him.
It was a torment of a marriage. The last 2.5 years of her life, it was nothing but crying. They were fighting over money.
It was extremely exciting and the most fulfilling relationship that I have ever had. She brought out the strongest qualities in me, made me more productive than I had ever been in my entire life. We allowed each other to develop to the fullest.
Investigators viewed Stephen Girai as one of the possible suspects. He owned several handguns, which were tested in the police ballistics lab. The results proved that Stephen's guns were not used in the shooting. Stephen also gave the police a detailed account of his movements on the day of the murder. Normally, he worked in his home office during the early morning, but that day, he changed his routine.
I woke up at about 5 that morning. I went upstairs and worked on the computer. I had an extremely busy day. There were some things that I had to finish up. Mary Lou was still in bed. Told her that I would call her at 7. I know that the security system was on when I left the house. At about 6:25, 6:30, I went down to 7-Eleven and got another cup of coffee. I left there and went to the post office, picked up our mail for the day. From there, I went to a donut shop and picked up donuts. Then I went to Precision Glass Company and talked with them for a moment. I started to leave, realized that I had forgotten to call Mary. I went back in at the reception desk and called her at almost 7:30. She was up. She said she was busy. So I told her goodbye.
From 7:30 when he called Mary Lou to 10:06 when Mary Lou's body was found, Stephen spent most of his time with witnesses who confirmed his alibi. Mary Lou's parents hired private investigator Bill Elliott, and he closely examined Stephen's alibi.
The witnesses that we interviewed indicated to us that it was not his habit or pattern to leave the house before 9 or 10 in the morning. And this particular day, he claims to have left the house between 6 and 6:30.
When Stephen left home, his first stop was at the 7-Eleven, only 2 blocks away and less than a 5-minute drive.
We interviewed the people at the convenience store where he went first. Stephen did not get there until 3 minutes until 7 o'clock. That would have given him time to do things as far as getting rid of evidence and that kind of thing.
Could I have a receipt,
The
please?
curious thing is Mr. Girai had not only gone to these places that morning, but for the following day, he went back and reminded these people that he had been there the day before, which is something that I found unusual.
Some 2 years before Mary Lou's death, Stephen bought life insurance for the both of them. Each policy had a total value of more than $400,000.
Mr. Girai was a big spender, liked to spend a lot of money and liked to live the high life at a higher level than his income was capable of supporting.
The overspending was well documented in the public record.
In Harris County, I found a little over $120,000 of hard cash judgments that he had against him.
10 months after the murder, Stephen tried to collect on his wife's policy. Outraged, Mary Lou's parents went to court to prevent him from collecting the money. They claimed that he didn't deserve the money because he had killed their daughter. Stephen Girai believes that there is another reason that Mary Lou's parents filed that lawsuit.
Well, there's 2 things that make the world go round, and that's sex and money. And it definitely wasn't sex, was it?
Strangely, just as the trial was beginning, Stephen Girai and Mary Lou's parents reached an out-of-court settlement. But which side requested the settlement? Stephen or Mary Lou's parents?
My attorney came and got me and said that Serratos had made an offer to settle the case.
We didn't have a reason to. Why do we want to do that?
I was adamant that when my attorney presented this to me, that it would not be as an admission of guilt, and that rather that the Serratos would realize that I was not involved, or why would they make the offer, and that we would settle on it. If it had been my daughter and I thought that person was involved, there was no way I would ever take a settlement. And but they did.
you not to discuss any aspect of the settlement of this case.
The court documents cannot reveal who asked for the judgment because the judge ordered the records sealed. After Mary Lou was buried, her headstone was vandalized numerous times and then stolen. The marker has been replaced, and it now reads Mary Lou Serrato, her maiden name.
It is very uncomfortable for us to go on living, knowing that somebody did something horrible and is not being punished.
No, I did not kill my wife. Mary Lou was the perfect woman for me. We had a wonderful life together, exciting. We traveled. We built one hell of a business, and a fantastic complement for each other.
The police still continue to search for information about the two weapons that were used in the murder. They feel that these guns will lead them to the killer. Stephen Gerai remains a person of interest. If you have any information, please log on to our website at unsolved.com. Next, a murdered woman contacts a friend from beyond the grave and offers clues to the identity of her killer. Chicago, Illinois. At about 9 p.m. on a cold winter night, firefighters respond to a call from a lakefront residential building. When they arrive, they find an upper-floor apartment on fire. In the middle of the living room floor, a mattress is engulfed in flames. Underneath the mattress, they find 48-year-old Teresita Basa. She had been stabbed in the chest and possibly raped. The fire is an attempt to cover up the murder. There was no apparent motive for the murder and very little physical evidence. The investigation quickly hit a dead end. But nearly 6 months later, the police received new information that came from a surprising source. Teresita Basa herself. Teresita Basa had moved to the United States from the Philippines when she was in her 30s. She worked as a respiratory therapist at a Chicago hospital.
Breathe in deeply and slowly, and open your mouth.
Co-workers described Teresita as a dedicated professional who gave all her time and energy to her patients. She seemed to have absolutely no enemies. At the crime scene, smoke and fire damage had destroyed all fingerprints, and nothing seemed to be missing from Teresita's apartment. For Chicago police detective Joe Stahula, there were no easy answers.
The only real piece of evidence we found was a memo indicating that she was expecting to obtain some theater tickets for a subject by name of A.S., who might have been expected at the apartment on that night.
Nearly 6 months passed, and Detective Joe Stahula was desperate for leads. So, he responded to a call that he might otherwise have dismissed. It would take his investigation into the world of the paranormal. A Filipino physician heard about Teresita's murder from his wife, who had worked with Teresita at the hospital. The doctor and his wife had requested anonymity, so we'll call them Enrico and Alicia Borda.
I worked with the late Teresita. We were both respiratory therapists at the
Alicia
hospital.
told the detective about strange events that happened after Teresita's death.
So frightened.
Late one night, Alicia went to a hospital lounge for a short nap. Seconds after she closed her eyes, she felt a ghostly presence in the room. It was Teresita Basa.
At first, I thought I was dreaming. I could not believe my eyes. But she is staring at me. I pray.
A
The boarders told Joe about a second experience that happened 2 weeks later at their home. That night, Alicia went to bed early, complaining of extreme exhaustion. Later, her husband went into the bedroom to check on her.
Dr. Borda said he asked her if she was all right, and he said her voice was different.
Help me.
In attempting to get his wife to talk more, he asked her, "Who are you?"
What is your name?
Teresita Basa.
He was confused because he did not know Teresita Basa at the time.
You must go to the police. The police cannot find my killer. Tell them his name is Alan Showery. Tell them.
Upon listening to this, I really picked up now, yes. And I asked him did he know who Alan Showery was, and he indicated from the voice from Teresita Basa that Alan Showery was an orderly that worked at the hospital with both his wife and Teresita Basa. He said at the end his wife woke up. He asked her if she knew what happened. She said she didn't. And then he sort of put it in the back of his mind and didn't act on it.
What's the matter?
He said then there was a second session where the voice again possessed his wife. And at this time the voice became more insistent.
Why did you not go to the police? Why?
He said he could not do anything to really help her, and the police couldn't do anything, that they would need evidence.
I will give you proof.
And at this point, the voice indicated that she had some evidence for him, that it was her jewelry.
After he killed me, he took my jewelry. He gave it to his girlfriend.
First thought that came into mind is, how can I put this on an official police report? But at this point, we began a background check on Alan Showery. Besides knowing Teresita Basa at the hospital, he lived a short distance from her. We also learned from co-workers at the hospital that Alan Showery was expected over at Teresita's apartment that night to repair her television set. This was probably the best clue that we had, putting him on the scene at the approximate time of the murder.
The detective brought in Alan Showery for questioning.
Alan, when was the last time that you were at Teresita Basa's apartment?
Well, Showery admitted that he went to Teresita's apartment that night to repair her television.
I was there, but I was just there to fix the television.
He claimed that he was not able to fix it, so he went home to the apartment that he shared with his girlfriend.
Alan, that's not true. You went there. We decided to contact the girlfriend and ask her if Alan had given her any jewelry recently within the last several months or weeks. This is the jewelry. I want you to take
Showery's girlfriend agreed to let Teresita's relatives and friends inspect the jewelry that Alan had given her.
The family members immediately recognized a large green piece of jade and several other distinctive pieces of jewelry.
Any other piece here look familiar?
The ring. That's Teresita's ring.
Ring on her finger?
Yeah, she was wearing it the last time I saw her.
It's all over, Alan.
Confronted with this evidence, Showery made a full confession.
Now, I want to know what happened.
He said he went to Teresita's apartment to fix her TV, but when he couldn't repair it, he left. He then decided to go back to rob and murder her.
I'm coming.
Alan returned to the apartment, and when Teresita let him in and she turned her back to lock the door, he said he quickly moved up behind her and placed a chokehold on her neck, holding it until she stopped struggling. He then dragged her body into the living room, where he disrobed her to make it look like it was a rape robbery type of scene. And then went into the bedroom and obtained the mattress off her bed, placing it over the body and setting the top of the mattress on fire.
Is it somehow possible that Teresita Basa spoke through Alicia Borda to catch her own killer? Well, no one knows that for sure, but one thing is certain. Without the information provided by Alicia, police would never have known the jewelry was missing, and Alan Showery would never have been arrested.
To this day, I'm not quite sure if Teresita came back. It's one of those bizarre incidents that you don't know is true or not true.
Despite his confession, Alan Showery pled not guilty. But when his trial ended in a hung jury, he had a change of heart. In a surprise move and against his lawyer's advice, Showery admitted his guilt. He was sentenced to 14 years in prison. He has served his time and was released. Coming up, treasure hunter Richard Bennett is convinced $400 million in gold is waiting to be found in the murky waters of Lake Michigan. We recently told you the story of Philip Macri, a talented high school basketball star from Pennsylvania. On a warm summer day, Philip's dreams of a basketball career came to a sudden and horrifying end. Just before the start of his senior year, Philip went to Virginia Beach for a weekend getaway. A carefree dive into the ocean nearly cost him his life.
When I dove into the wave, I broke my neck instantly and couldn't feel anything. I do remember when I was underwater, I was saying, "Help, somebody help me, help," I was screaming.
Philip was unable to move his arms or legs. He would have drowned if another swimmer had not pulled him from the water. However, in the frantic moments after the rescue, the woman who saved Philip's life disappeared before anyone could ask her name. Even though the freak accident left Philip paralyzed, he has always wanted to thank the mysterious woman who gave him a second shot at life.
It's very important to find this lady who pulled me out of the water, because I wouldn't be able to be here with my family today. I wouldn't be able to do the things that I always wanted to do in life if she wouldn't have saved my life.
On the night of our broadcast, 43-year-old Linda Potts called to say that she was the unknown rescuer. Linda lives in Ohio, just 60 miles from Philip's home in Pennsylvania. Now, 5 years later, Philip and Linda could be properly introduced.
Hi, Philip.
How are you?
Fine, how are you?
Fine. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
When she pulled up in the car today when I first met her, it gave me tingling all through my body and made me feel real good to know that I could thank her for saving my life.
I felt like I found a member of my family, a lost member of my family that I hadn't seen in 5 years.
That evening, Philip's parents hosted a dinner for her family and friends in honor of the woman who saved their son's life.
I hope to keep a real close relationship with me and Mrs. Potts. I found out she's, had some medical problems in her life, and, if there's anything I could do to help her out with her problems, I love to help her out with it.
Philip and I will remain friends for a long, long time. If there's anything I can ever do for Philip, all he has to do is pick up the phone and dial my number. I'll be there for him.
To this day, Philip Macri and Linda Potts still keep in touch. Two strangers introduced by a twist of fate. Poverty Island is only a speck of rocky land just east of Wisconsin. Treacherous storms often sweep across Lake Michigan without warning. The result is a graveyard of sunken ships and intriguing tales of lost treasures. One legend in particular claims that just offshore Poverty Island, there are 5 chests stuffed with gold bullion and coins, which today would be worth more than $400 million. Richard Bennett is a professional diver and author of Deep Quest. He has spent more than 20 years and $100,000 of his own money searching for the sunken fortune.
Any story that lasts or survives 100 years has to have some validity to it. If they survive 100 years, they probably have an 80-85% chance of being true.
But how does $400 million in gold end up on the bottom of Lake Michigan? The treasure story reaches back to 1863, when the tide of the Civil War was turning in favor of the Union. The cash-poor South asked France for help. Supposedly, the French Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte III secretly dispatched a shipment of gold across the Atlantic to Canada. It was then spirited down the St. Lawrence River and into Lake Michigan. But some say that while traveling inland to Chicago, the ship was attacked and sank, or that it was wrecked in a storm. Either way, the chests of gold never arrived.
One of the most intriguing things about this legend is that it's consistent in that the loss is always at Poverty Island. There's always 5 chests, and it's always the same scenario.
And over here, she shows as being lost.
However, historian Chuck Feltner disagrees. He has spent years in the Great Lakes searching for shipwrecks, and he believes that the legend is a good story, but that's all it is.
257 tons.
Records of shipwrecks on the Great Lakes in the year 1863 were extremely good. We've not been able to find any evidence that any of these vessels that were recorded to have been lost were sunk in the vicinity of Poverty Island, or that they were French vessels, as the legend would have it to be.
This is not the kind of activity that people would normally document. This was more of a secret activity, and they would not want to be broadcasting it.
Despite the lack of a paper trail, the legend of the secret shipment has persisted. In 1929, a group of sailors supposedly snagged the 5 chests with their anchor. They almost got it to the surface when it fell back into the water. A few years later, a group of investors in Chicago raised $50,000 to try their luck. A young boy named Carly Jessen, whose father was the local lighthouse keeper, was said to have watched the salvage operation for 3 consecutive summers.
One day, he was sitting on the rocks watching this operation, and there was a lot of rejoicing, revelry, obviously a real congratulatory party that was going on the ship.
According to Carly, a storm hit that night and the salvage ship sank with all the men on board. The waters of Lake Michigan had once again reclaimed the Poverty Island treasure. Today, Richard Bennett feels confident that he will succeed where others have failed. He has devised an underwater sled to comb the murky depths of Lake Michigan.
The only way to really find this treasure is to have human beings on the sled, visually looking at the bottom. It's cold, it's deep, the area is very treacherous. But I'm a dreamer, and I'm a gambler. As long as I have those things working for me, I'll probably continue to do it.
Will Richard Bennett ever find the Poverty Island treasure? Well, only time will tell. But until that day, Lake Michigan will keep its grip on the secret of the 5 wooden treasure chests said to wait beneath the surface. Next, the harrowing account of a rape and shotgun attack told by the woman who survived it. Fayetteville, North Carolina. Business Route 95, just outside of town. State troopers Chris Dew and Ron Knight stopped to compare notes during a routine patrol.
About 2 minutes into the conversation, a lady walked out of the woods about 75 yards away and started towards us, staggering. She had blood on her shoulders, and she was coming in our direction.
Run, get your blanket.
I laid her on the ground, and the other trooper went to his car and called for an ambulance.
The young woman had been shot in the face with a 12-gauge double-barreled shotgun. Her left jaw was completely shattered, and she was unable to speak. She had no ID, and it wasn't until 10 hours later, when her condition stabilized, that she was able to write down her mother's name and telephone number. Police discovered that the victim was from Winston-Salem, 120 miles away.
We conducted probably a 30-minute interview with her. It was probably the most severe injury I've ever seen for a person that survived.
When you stopped.
Although the victim could not speak, she was able to write down a detailed description of the savage attack as well as the attacker. A police artist created this drawing. This story may not be easy to watch. However, police fear that if the man responsible for this hideous crime is not caught, he could strike again. The young victim courageously agreed to be interviewed. She asked that we not use her real name, so we'll call her Debbie. And this is her story.
It's important that this man be caught because he is not rational, he's very dangerous, and he may harm someone else.
One spring morning, Debbie made a large cash withdrawal from a local bank. She left at 9:40 a.m.
We're going for a ride. Just start the car. Start the car.
Debbie told police that the man forced her to drive to a nearby liquor store.
Give me the keys. Give me the keys.
The man went inside to buy whiskey, holding Debbie's car keys and keeping a close eye on her. Debbie was terrified because he threatened to kill everyone in the liquor store if she tried to escape.
Start the car.
The man then ordered Debbie to head towards Fayetteville. For 4 agonizing hours, he threatened her life, drank heavily, and even bragged that he once killed a man in New York City. The journey for Debbie was a living hell.
A lot of the time, he just wouldn't talk to me at all. And when he did, he was very abusive, very angry. It got worse as time went on because he was drinking also the liquor, and he would just get more angry and more irrational. And I got more afraid knowing I could not reason with him.
Just north of Fayetteville, the man forced Debbie to pull off the road.
Get out. Get out.
Debbie made an attempt to escape from her kidnapper. At almost that same moment, State Trooper Ron Knight noticed the great station wagon.
I was going to cross over and check the vehicle, and just about this time I met a speeding vehicle traveling south on I-95 business, so I turned and pursued after this vehicle.
Debbie was beaten, sexually assaulted, shot in the face, and left for dead. The next day, Debbie's station wagon was found abandoned 300 miles away in northern Florida. Authorities in Fayetteville investigated the crime scene. They found the suspect's size 42 dark blue jacket and brown cloth gloves. Both smelled like petroleum.
We think we're looking at a person that works around that type of a product. It could possibly be a mechanic, somebody who works with greasy, grimy motors, that kind of thing. Possibly even somebody who drives a fuel oil, heating oil type truck.
Debbie's attacker was about 5 feet 10 inches tall and weighed between 150 and 160 pounds.
I feel like until they find him, I'm going to continually feel like he's there, he's out there, and it's that fear of him being there, and that he also might hurt someone else.
If you have any information about Debbie's case, please log on to our website at unsolved.com. Next, some say the birth of a rare white buffalo calf is the fulfillment of an age-old prophecy. "150 years ago, more than 60 million buffalo roamed the western plains. But today, just 30,000 of those majestic creatures remain. Most are on ranches or farms, such as this one in Janesville, Wisconsin. Dave Hyder and his wife Valerie have been breeding buffalo for decades. But nothing could have prepared them for the remarkable events that began when Dave made a routine check on a pregnant cow.
The cow walked out into the sunlight and the calf followed her. I could not believe what I was looking at. She was as white could be, as white as snow.
The odds were 1 in 10 million that a white, non-albino buffalo calf would be born. Miracle was the perfect name. News of the extraordinary calf spread, and numerous members of the Lakota Sioux Nation made a pilgrimage to the Hyder's farm. To the Lakotas, Miracle was the fulfillment of an ancient prophecy. Almost overnight, the farm was transformed into a religious shrine.
They came from all over the world. We had telephone calls every 3 minutes from 6:30 in the morning to 11:30 at night.
At one period, we had 2,300 people through our driveway in a 5-hour length of time. And it was wall-to-wall people constantly. It was like a wave that never ended.
At first, the Hyders were overwhelmed by all the attention. But that was before they learned the full significance of the white buffalo calf. This rare animal is at the heart of a sacred legend, handed down by the Lakota Sioux for over 2,000 years.
There was a time when
Chief Arvo Looking Horse of the Cheyenne River Reservation is the spiritual leader of the Lakota Nation. He is responsible for passing on the story of the white buffalo calf to the next generation. The legend says that 2 scouts were sent out during a great famine to search for the buffalo herd. The scouts spotted a lone white buffalo calf. They watched in amazement as the calf magically transformed itself into a beautiful young woman. 4 days later, the white buffalo calf woman appeared again, but this time to the entire tribe. She came with a sacred pipe and a code of laws that are as important to the Lakota as the 10 Commandments are to Western religions. The woman promised that she would return again in 2,000 years as a white buffalo calf to introduce a time of peace and harmony.
she came when the cherries are deepest red or black, and that's would be the last week in August, and that's when 19 generations later, this white buffalo calf is being born.
But if Miracle is the reincarnation of the white buffalo calf woman, why is she here now? The Lakota believe that her return is tied to an ancient prophecy. The prophecy says that the world will soon experience great fires, floods, earthquakes, typhoons, and some man-made disasters like pollution and war. It then states that harmony will prevail, followed by a period of world peace.
There is hope. There's not going to be no end of the world. It's just that we've got to put our minds together as concerning our Mother Earth.
Not surprisingly, there were offers to buy the buffalo calf, some from such diverse people as media mogul Ted Turner and rock star Ted Nugent.
She's not for sale. She will not leave here. You have to be here and see the effect that this calf has on people, how it changes their lives. Something that is as sacred and holy as what that calf is, you can't put a price on it. That calf was sent here for us to be like a caretaker to it, for all people to come see.
Apparently, the miracle calf has already fulfilled one portion of the prophecy, changing colors 4 times, from white to black, to red, and now yellow.
This is the world-renowned white buffalo, which is not so white anymore.
Yeah. And she's one of these 4. Do you think you can pick her out?
Ladies and gentlemen, there is the star. World-renowned white buffalo.
I've seen people from all over the world come here. And when they walk away, there's something different about them, which is spiritual awakening. But the message she brought to us is the time has come for us to live through peace, love, and harmony.
Update. Miracle gave birth to 4 calves before dying of natural causes at 10 years of age. The Hyder farm was blessed with a 2nd white buffalo 2 years later. And even though he was unrelated to Miracle, they named him Miracle Second Chance.